You're not. You're more ready.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 16th, 2022 Londonderry, New Hampshire Zoning Board of Adjustment. I think we'll start with introductions, starting with on the right side of the room.
My name's Nick Codman, I'm the building inspector and zoning administrator.
Laura Gandia, Associate Planner.
Irene Macarelli, alternate member.
Brendan O'Brien, voting member.
Mitch Feig, voting member.
Chris Moore, alternate member.
And just an explanation before we get started. So tonight, Chris Moore is new to the board. So with respect to the cases that have been here previously where he was not a member of the board, he can't sit on them. So we'll have 3 members for those cases. With respect to case number 12-15-2021-8, which is the request for a variance related to 8 Wiley Hill Road, Irene is unfortunately recused from that one, so we do not have currently 3 members who can vote on it. So right now, we would not be able to hear that one. You're welcome to stay to wait for that in case someone arrives, but currently we would have to continue that. Other than that, just so everyone's clear, even though there are only 3 or 4 members that are going to be able to vote on any of these, we're going to have to, you're still required to get 3 members to vote in your favor. So it would be 3 of 4 or 3 of 3 in the cases that are held over. With respect to how meeting procedure works, the applicant will present their case. The board will then ask questions. The board will then give the applicant an opportunity to respond. The board will then request input from the public. The public input will have to come through the board because, just so everyone's clear, everything comes through the board. There's no conversation between the applicant and members of the public. After that, we'll give the applicant an opportunity to respond. And after the applicant has an opportunity to respond, we'll go into deliberations. And deliberations, the board will discuss amongst itself the case. You're welcome to stay for deliberations if you'd like, or you can find out how the case was decided tomorrow, I believe, at the office. Do we have a regional impact?
We do. I don't know if, before we begin, if you want to just poll the applicants to see if anybody wants to be continued,
3 of
because
Okay.
there's only 3.
Well, I think,
Starting at case 5.
yeah, with respect to some of the cases that are early on that only you're going to have 3, that would be case number 11-17-2021-3 and case number 11-17-2021-4 and case number 2-16-2022-1. There will only be 3 people who can hear those. So are any of those applicants interested in continuing those cases?
If they need a unanimous. Remind them unanimous. Remind them they need 3 votes.
And just so everyone's clear, with 3, if there's only 3 people hearing the case, you have to get all 3 in order to prevail on your variance. Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Chair, for the record, John Cronin, here on the Youngs Road. I just went out to the hall with our clients and a team of folks to explain what the 3 votes meant. And some thought it could be 2 to 1, and I said, no, you need to get all 3 votes, which is quite a change from having 5. If you can give us a minute, they're mulling it over, and seeing whether they want to continue. Of course, in any development, particularly in the springtime, is of the essence, but it's a decision that they have to live with once they make it. So I just want to make sure that they think about it and let me know what they want to do. So I think a couple minutes we can decide.
Okay, well, we'll go through the rest of the procedures, and then when you get called for the case, we can talk about it then. Any of the other cases, 2-16-2022-1, is there any interest in continuing that case? No.
All right, then I'll proceed with the regional impact while we wait.
Please.
So we do have 4 cases for consideration for regional impact. The first case is a request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.C.3 to encroach 10 feet into the 15-foot setback for the construction of an addition to a deck, 143 Mammoth Road, map 3, lot 100-1, zoned AR1. Douglas and Elizabeth Thomas, owner and applicant. Case number 316-2022-2, request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.C.1 to encroach 15 feet into the 40-foot front setback for the construction of a shed, 13 Thornton Road, map 6, lot 99-79, zoned AR1. Harmony Barastas and Eric Paris, owners and applicants. Case number 316-2022-3, request for a variance to encroach 60 feet into the 150 planned residential development buffer setback for the construction of an in-ground pool, 2 Burbank, map 2, lot 29B-5, zoned AR1, Cooper and Jenner Brown, owners and applicants. Case number 316-2022-4, appeal of administrative decision by Norma Dietrich dated February 7th, 2022, regarding LZO 4.2.1.2.A, the use of a travel trailer camper as an accessory dwelling living space, 3 Goddard Circle, map 6, lot 75-1, zoned AR1, Sean and Marie Buckland, owners and applicants. Staff recommends that the board find that none of these projects are developments of regional impact, as they do not meet the criteria set forth by the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
Do I have a motion to accept the regional impact determination?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the regional impact determination.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the minutes from the February 16th meeting to approve.
I don't have them in here. I didn't see them.
We can find them.
Or did you put them in the
I
file?
didn't print those out yet, I will print those out.
What about the regional impact?
Nope, I have those with me, so you don't have to worry about
Okay.
those.
Okay.
Yep. So if you wanted to make a motion for those minutes.
Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 16th, 2022 zoning board of adjustment meeting?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any report by the town council liaison?
I have nothing to report today. Thank you.
Then I believe we can start. Case number 1117-2021-3, a request for 2 variances from LZO 4.2.2.b to eliminate the use requirement. At least 75% of single-family and 2-family dwellings shall be restricted housing for older persons in the multifamily residential R3 zone, and 2 LZO 4.2.2.3.b.1.b to allow 55 residential 3-bedroom units where only 35 are permitted. 22 Young Road, map 6, lot 58-2, zoned R3. Edgar L. Pitts and Winifred L. Pitts Revocable Trust, owner, and Cedar Crest Development LLC applicant, which was continued from the February 16th, 2022 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, John Cronin for the record. Thank you for the time to confer about the 3-member board. Our client would like to request a continuance to the next meeting, and maybe we'll have a full board at that time, hopefully.
And I assume you'll be requesting continuance for 1117-2021-4 as well?
That would be correct.
And
That's the April 20th.
April 20th is the meeting date on that.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a motion on that,
You do.
Laura? Would anyone like to make a motion to grant the continuance on case number 1117-2021-3 and 1117-2021-4?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue case number 1117-2021-3 and case number 1117-2021-4 to the April 20th, 2022 meeting.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you have a voting sheet on that?
Thank you. See you next month. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah. This is the 3.
Yeah, I think.
Let me see if there's a 4. There's a 4 here. Do you want me to? Here's the,
So I don't think I actually need to do it because it's continuous, but I'll speak to Laura.
yeah. I would have.
But there's not enough people to act on it. So just because he's gonna call it next. Okay.
Laura, for continuance, do we need to mark the voting sheet or can we just do it orally?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I have that.
The next case is case number 1215-2021-8, which is a request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.b.1 to allow a lot with 100.58 feet of frontage where 150 feet are required, 8 Wiley Hill Road, lot 28, zoned AR1, Belize Real Estate Holding LLC, owner and applicant. Unfortunately, we only have 2 members of the board, just Mitch and myself, who can hear this case, so we don't have a full board. So unfortunately, we'll have to move to continue this to the April 20th hearing as well.
All right,
Sorry about that.
no problem. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue case number 12-15-2021-8 to the April 20th, 2022 meeting.
Unfortunately, we can't even make a motion because we don't have enough people.
I was going to say, because I would
Yeah,
have to
so, but
second
it was noted for the record that it's continued, but.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't even do it.
Case number 2/16-2022-1, an appeal of a zoning administration chief building inspector Nick Codner's administrative decision determinations dated November 23rd, 2021 regarding necessary site improvements and approvals pursuant to LZO sections 5.21A, 4.3, 4.3.2A through D, and 4.33, 6 Dickey Street, map 10, lot 109, zone C2, Leon and Tamara Lampas, owners and applicants, continued from the February 16th, 2022 meeting, and I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. Who will be presenting?
I will, Attorney Brenda Keith with the Booton Law Firm here in Londonderry. And this was continued because a key piece of evidence came to light during the first presentation, and we've obtained an exhibit to supplement the record. Now, I understand that this is a new board. I also understand that a question of jurisdiction came up, and if we can address that first, I think that that would be expeditious.
You may.
Okay. Although I think the Zoning Board of Adjustment already accepted jurisdiction by hearing the case on February 16th, I do understand that there's some contrary case law that indicates for municipal estoppel cases, a later case than what we cited in the appeal document indicates that for a municipal estoppel, you do not have to exhaust administrative remedies, which in this case was an appeal of an administrative ruling to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So to the extent you wish to decide that first, that makes sense to us.
Unfortunately, the case you're referring to, and I believe it's, I don't want to mispronounce it, it's the Dembiak versus Town of Holderness case, I believe.
Yes.
And I believe it does say pretty explicitly that zoning boards of adjustment do not have jurisdiction to hear municipal estoppel issues. So unfortunately, I'll have to take a motion to decline to hear this case because of jurisdiction.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to find that the board does not have jurisdiction to consider a municipal estoppel claim in accordance with the Dembiak decision.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. We understand. We'll go from here.
Thank you. Is there a form for that?
I don't think there's a form for that, no. Case number 3/16/2022-1, a request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.C.3 to encroach 10 feet into the 15-foot back setback for the construction of an addition to the deck, 143 Mammoth Road, map 3, lot 100-1, zoned AR1, Douglas and Elizabeth Thomas, owners and applicants. And for this one, Chris Moore will be hearing the case because it's here for the first time. So I'd like to appoint him as a voting member, and Irene, I believe, was already appointed for a voting member, but if not, she's appointed as a voting member as well.
Mr. Chair, there are no previous zoning
Yourself, right?
related to this property.
No, you didn't get this one. That's
Who'll be presenting?
I will. Doug Thomas, 143 Mammoth Road. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the board for hearing our case. I do have my wife Elizabeth behind me here and one of our abutters. I assume I can just go through my 5 facts here?
Absolutely. Just the 5 points of law are key, so if you'd like to either read what you have or read what you have and add some extra, that's fine as well.
Certainly. Well, I believe that I meet fact 1, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. The deck extension will not affect the character of the neighborhood in terms of the health, safety, and welfare, nor will it deviate from the intended use of the land or the spirit of the ordinance. The land directly to the rear of the property where the deck is located is a wooded wetland with ledge and a running meadow brook. There's a drop-off just beyond the property line that slopes towards the back and to the brook. Several types of animals and birds frequent the area and are often observed. There are no footpaths or houses within that area. The area behind me is owned by SE Lumber Incorporated. The property is surrounded by residential homes with virtually no foot traffic within the wooded area, and there are no footpaths or traffic that traverses between the houses across the back property. The deck addition would extend 12 feet from the current deck at the same height towards the rear of the property and would land approximately, or it will land 10 feet into the 15-foot setback area. The deck will not interfere with views, nor is it contrary to any area of public interest. I believe that explanation meets fact number one. Fact number two is the spirit of the ordinance is observed. In referring to fact one, the extension into the setback is consistent with the residential use of the property, that of the private recreation and enjoyment that will not intrude with the use of any of the abutters and does not change the use of the land or in any way present a change to the wooded area beyond. There will be no overcrowding since the area directly beyond the deck is a wooded wetland with no footpaths, houses, or structures or frequent use by the surrounding neighborhood. Many animals and birds frequent this area, and it remains serene and quiet and relatively quiet. The deck will not change any of this character and thus remains within the spirit of the ordinance. I believe that explanation meets fact two. Fact number three, a substantial justice is done. The deck extension is consistent with the area's present use, is appropriate for the area, and presents no harm to the abutters or nearby wetlands. The loss of use of having the deck extension in terms of the personal use of enjoying my property would be greater than any gain to the public for the same reasons stated above. I think for that reason, it meets fact number three. For fact number four, the value of the surrounding properties are not diminished. The project does not disturb any views or block any passageway, nor can it be seen by abutters to the point of diminishing the surrounding properties' values around. So it meets number four. Number five, the literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. This property is unique in that it is surrounded by a wooded area on all sides, which adds to the privacy from two abutters on the Windsor Boulevard side. The other abutters are located at the far end of the front of the property, behind trees and out of view from the deck extension. To the rear, there is appreciable wooded forest and wetlands extending out and beyond the line of sight, which is situated on land owned by a lumber business. It has ledge and a drop-off area beyond the rear of the property. A brook runs behind the rear of the property into the north side and across Mammoth Road on the side of 145 Mammoth Boulevard Road. There is wetland in the front of the property on both sides of the S-shaped driveway from Mammoth Road leading to the house front. There is a leach field in the front lawn, and the septic tank is in the front running parallel to the house, which prevents placement of a front deck. There is a large boulder ledge to the side of the house facing Windsor Boulevard near the side door to the garage and would not be a practical place for a deck in any case, as would be the case on the opposite side of the house as well, having no access. Building to the side of the current deck would interfere with the irrigation feed pipes located directly under the large windows in the rear and with the air conditioning compressor located in the same area. Building to the other side of the current deck would interfere with the bulkhead. This makes the placement of the deck extension possible only at the proposed location. Item 2, Roman numeral 2. The proposed use is a reasonable one. The extension of the deck from the original one in both size and purpose is a reasonable use under the ordinance of a residential property with no additional use intended other than for the private enjoyment of the applicant. The extension will allow contiguous use of the owner, who is handicapped, my wife in reference, without the need to step down onto uneven ground to gain full enjoyment of the property. Additionally, the current deck is planned to have a 3-season room built on it, thus necessitating the need for the deck extension to accommodate a planned outside jacuzzi and outdoor seating area. The plan of the 3-season room is not yet there, but we have plans for it after this is done. The ground in the backyard is very uneven and not conducive to safe placement of lawn and furniture. Very potty and kind of rough. Ledges are sticking up. Not very safe to walk on, particularly if you're handicapped. And therefore, it would not be fair to impose a literal enforcement of the 15-foot setback restriction. Members of the board, I also provided a picture from where my existing deck is facing outward, and I think I drew I actually placed a boundary where the deck extension would be on there. There it is there. That's how it would look. You can see the back. There is wooded wetland. There are no houses around there, and the deck extension is just contiguous and would fit that square that I bounded. Fortunately, the snow was still there, so it's a good indication about how the deck would look.
Thank you. Do you have anything else, or? I just want to make sure, I know I mentioned at the beginning, but even though there's 4 of us, you'll still need to get 3 votes. I assume you still want to go forward?
Well, yes, I would. I think I provided everything that I'm aware of on this. It's, we like to have the extension because it will allow more furniture to be put out where my wife can get to it, because she doesn't have to go down the ground. And it really, with no one being around there, you can't even see the deck from my backyard. There's woods everywhere. I hope the board takes that into consideration. I ask for your indulgence and to perhaps a favorable reply.
Any questions from the board?
Laura, could you bring up the diagrams again?
Sure.
Yeah.
I looked at them briefly. Just want to make sure I know what we're seeing. So that's the house, the crosshatch, right?
Yes,
And the dark rectangle,
that's the current deck.
and then what's the addition?
That's the bulkhead.
That's the bulkhead, so you're putting the addition, oh, I see it now, the dot, okay, I didn't
Yes.
see it.
Yes, that's about what it would look like. As you can see, that's the only practical place to put a deck extension, given the boundaries of the house and where the septic tanks are and everything.
Where's the septic and the air conditioner, is that?
Well, the air conditioner is right to the side of the current deck yeah, right there. That's where that is. And I have a big picture window there, and under the picture window there are irrigation pipes there as well. So they would be covered if I put a deck there. On the other side of the house, facing the road, that's where the septic tank is. And that area where it says Lot 3, that area there is my leach field.
And the irrigation pipes are like lawn watering, is that?
I'm sorry?
The irrigation pipes are to water the lawn?
Yes, yes.
And I assume this section in the front that's a little bit of a broken up line, that's wetlands?
Yes, that's wetlands, and my driveway kind of S-shapes over a culvert of the wetlands onto Mammoth Road.
Okay.
We usually run by to look at the properties, and you were just so far back, I could just barely
Yeah.
see it.
So just to clarify as well, Mammoth Road in this diagram is on the far right.
Yes,
Okay.
You said you've got ledge on if you're facing the house on the left-hand side?
there is a ledge boulder on, if you look down from the edge of the house where it says AS Built Foundation.
Yep.
There's a ledge boulder right there.
Okay.
And in back of the house, just beyond the property line, where it dips down a little bit, there's a large ledge area there as well, which is, not passable.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I'm just scrolling through the pictures.
Is it okay for my wife to mention something?
Oh, absolutely.
Our closest abutter is here with us, Christine Patton. She's the only home that really can see that deck because there's all trees between the other abutters. So she's here if you'd like to hear, her testimonial for it.
So if there are no other questions, Chris, did you have a question?
I mean, I'd like to hear.
Okay. If there's no other questions from the board, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor?
I might have a question, but I'm not ready yet.
So you can actually go to that microphone and just make sure you say your name and your address, please.
Christine Patton, 145 Mammoth Road.
Sorry, speak into the microphone just because it is on TV, so it makes it
I've
easier.
been neighbors with them for a long time, and even from my house, I can't see into their backyard. The only way I can see into their backyard is if I go to the far edge of my backyard. I don't see any problem. I've been over there. Their backyard, to me, and I'm not a professional, it looks like it was fill from whoever built the house previously. So it was never leveled off, and it's like this, and it sinks, and there's rocks and everything else back there. Liz can't walk around back there. She doesn't get to enjoy their property at all. So I think this would be a great benefit for her, because then she can get out. She doesn't have to go down onto rough ground to enjoy that little bit that he would like to put in.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience other than that one abutter who's in favor? Anyone in the audience who's opposed? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any other questions from the board?
I had a question. Nick, I don't know if you go out there for this or not. I guess when I look at the spirit of the ordinance is, of that ordinance is to protect water, and this brings them closer, I guess, to a little stream or something in the back. Don't know that a deck creates a problem, but I don't know if that's something we looked at.
No, I don't believe that's a regulated stream.
Okay, whatever it is in the back that they mentioned.
It's not.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
I did have one other question.
Sure.
So I'm looking at the diagram now of what you're proposing. And just to clarify, it's not even the full width of the deck that you're expanding
Correct.
upon.
Right.
It's about, looks like 3/4 or so.
It's about 12 feet back and about 17 feet long, which is not the entire length of the current deck.
And at the furthest into the setback, it's about
10
10
feet,
out of the
yeah.
15
No,
feet.
no more than 10 feet, right.
Okay. I don't have any further questions.
I guess the only other question I have, and please don't take offense, did you guys consider what it might be to level the lawn or as an alternative to, relocate the air conditioning compressor? Just thinking about other ways you could have done it.
We had to actually relocate the air conditioner 2 years ago.
Okay.
So and there's really no other place because of the bulkhead on the other side. And as far as leveling the lawn, unfortunately, we live in a beautiful, area of wetlands with lots of critters and things. Unfortunately, our grass is currently always a tunnel for all the critters. And so at any one moment, there's going to be a divot somewhere. And no matter how much we try to fill it in and even it, it just doesn't happen because, because we have a lot of animals that live underground there.
And in addition, we did have a landscaper go back and walk it off to see what could be done. Unfortunately, my backyard the ledge is exposing in the backyard, and he said the ledge would have to be drilled out or hammered out to get it really level, and that, of course, adds a lot of cost.
Any other questions from the board? Anything you'd like to add before we take it into deliberations?
I did have one other question, sorry.
Oh, sure.
The land directly behind the deck, what is that zoned as? Is that just conservation land, or is it?
It belongs to the SD Lumber Company. I don't know what it's zoned at, but there's a ravine down there and ledge, and farther back, there's a small brook that runs way off to one side. There's no activity there except for animals.
But there's no other residential buildings or anything else that's gonna be built there? There's no? Do we know what it is?
It's all AR1 behind him.
It's all AR1?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay. I apologize. If you'd like to speak, you can come up to the microphone. And just say your name and your address, please.
Patricia Sampson, 6 Windsor Boulevard. And I believe your land abuts ours, and where your shed is.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But from what I can tell from this picture where they're planning to put the deck, we wouldn't see it. It wouldn't cause us any problems.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add before we go into deliberations?
I don't believe so. Thank you for your indulgence and your time. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, we'll go into deliberations now. Mitch, could you give me the, not that sheet, but the voting sheet?
This guy here,
Yeah, the one underneath it.
or the one underneath us.
Yeah, not that.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to have a discussion, or do you want to go into the 5 points, or?
I'm ready
to go into the 5 points?
Okay,
Yeah, I am as well.
yeah, okay. So, Mitch, do you want to read the 5 points and we can go from there, or?
Should I just stop each one, or do you want me to read them all?
I would just stop each one, and then you can fill in whatever decision we come to.
Okay, so granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because?
I would say would not.
I agree.
I would agree.
Yeah, I don't think it causes any threat to it doesn't change the character of the neighborhood, and it doesn't cause any threat to safety or welfare, or
Yep.
anything similar to that.
Sorry, when you write and you read it.
Well, that's why I want you to control when we ask the questions, because I don't want to get ahead of you.
No, fair enough. The spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because?
I would say it would,
I agree.
I agree.
and I think it's for the same reasons as indicated in number 1.
I agree. Would. Okay, granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because?
I would say it would.
I agree.
I agree.
I think any loss to them would be greater than any gain to the public by them not having the deck.
Okay, item 4, for the following reasons, the values of the surrounding property would or would not be diminished.
I would say would not.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anything the opposite.
The only abutters had no issue with it. There was no,
Hardly seeable from any other property.
right,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Okay, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because, this is the one that always goes the other way, there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because.
So I would say there is not a fair and substantial relationship because with respect to this property, it's a narrow property with wetlands in the front. It's got ledge issues on other sides. There's really nowhere else the deck can go. And I think that there was pretty good testimony on that.
There's no damage to the land behind it or any other residential
Right.
properties either.
There's not even a residence really behind it,
Right.
based on what we can see.
Proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because.
Is reasonable.
Agreed. The deck is
agree.
reasonable.
The deck is reasonable. Any comments or restrictions?
I don't think so.
If I could just suggest, the board may want to put in any motion it makes, the size of the deck.
Oh, okay.
So like, as shown,
I think he testified it'd be like 12 by 17. I think you can ask what that size
Okay.
of the addition of the deck
Yeah,
would be.
just to open it up. I'm sorry.
It's
what's-
on here as
What's
well.
the size of the deck going to be?
It's 12 feet back and 17 wide.
Okay, and that's for
It's
the-
at the same level as the current deck as well.
So 12 by 17 will be the size of the addition to the deck?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Can I ask an additional question?
Sure.
What made you decide on that size and shape as well, based on?
I'm kind of glad you asked me that question. There is a privacy fence perpendicular to the current deck, and on the other side of that privacy fence is my COVID project. During the COVID time, I went in the backyard and I put some plants and a little water fountain there to make it look good for my other side of the where my deck is. And I was reticent to remove that privacy fence and destroy my my work. So
This fits directly between it?
this fits directly between it. Yes.
And I'd just like to add that beyond his plants is a whole, it's a stamped concrete pad, so we'd have to rip up, any concrete.
Okay. Guess I can make a motion.
Yes. Would anyone like to make a motion with respect to this variance?
Okay, let me just get this, too many pieces of paper. Let's see. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion in the case number 03-16-2022-1, request for variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.c.3 to encroach 10 feet into the 15-foot setback for the construction of an addition to a deck, 143 Mammoth Road, map 3, lot 100-1, zoned AR1, Douglas and Elizabeth Thomas, owners and applicants, that the board approve the variance with the restriction that the deck will be 12 feet back and 17 feet wide.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
With respect to case number 3-16-2022-1, the request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.c.3 to encroach 10 feet in the 15-foot back setback for the construction of addition to the deck, 143 Mammoth Road. The variance is granted with the condition that the deck will be 12 feet by 17 feet.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. So Mitch, you can put those together in that.
Oh, yeah. This is where I failed.
No, and we'll just get the next one. Just let me know when you have it up. Oh, actually, Laura, should I announce 3-16-2022-2 again, just in case anyone stayed or came late?
Yes, because we haven't officially withdrawn that yet.
Okay. This is case number 3-16-2022-2, request for a variance from LZO 4.2.1.3.c.1 to encroach 15 feet into the 40-foot front setback for the construction of a shed, 13 Thornton Road, map 6, lot 99-79, zoned AR1, Harmony Barassa and Eric Paris, owners and applicants.
If I could just inform the board of
Yes.
some happenings with that case. So the shed, they applied for a variance. The shed was put up before they received the variance. Enforcement went out to take a look at the shed, and the shed is actually encroaching greater than the 15 feet. So if the encroachment is greater, as the board's aware, you can't hear that case. So they're withdrawing that case, and they actually already filed an application with the correct measurements for next month. So with that, they would seek to withdraw this case.
Okay, so that case is withdrawn.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Is everybody okay to continue to the next one? Case number 3-16-2022-3, a request for a variance to encroach 60 feet into the 150-foot planned residential development buffer setback for the construction of an in-ground pool, 2 Burbank, map 2, lot 29B-5, zoned AR1, Cooper and Jenna Brown, owners and applicants.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, other members. My name is Cooper. This is my wife, Jenna.
And if you'd like, you can run through the 5 points of law, and if you have anything else you'd like to add, feel free to do so.
No, the only thing I'll start with is this is our first time ever at like a city council meeting, so just bear with us.
Absolutely.
All right, number one, variance will not be contrary to public interest. It It was our interpretation that this variance will not be contrary to public interest by adding a pool to our backyard. It's more meant for private activities. Will not affect the essential character of the neighborhood in any way, shape, or form, nor will it threaten the health, safety, or general welfare of the public around us. Number two, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. The spirit of the ordinance will still be observed. Adding a pool does not affect the character of the neighborhood, again, or threaten the health, safety, or welfare of the public. It's meant mostly for us to enjoy as well as family. There will not be any overcrowding in the backyard or any inappropriate use of the land back there. Number three, substantial justice is done. There is a greater loss to us than gain to the public if the variance is not granted. Us having a large lot at almost 3.5 acres, there will be no overcrowding or any potential of misuse of the land back there, as there's no direct view of any neighbors behind us and or to the left of our property. Number four, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. Property values often increase by higher surrounding property values. If one value goes up, then others usually follow. I think that adding this, as well as what else we want to do by adding the patio, will probably improve our value by approving the variance. So I think thus it would actually do the opposite. If anything, I think it might make other values go up. 5A, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public, purposes of the ordinance provision, and the specific application of that provision to the property. The purpose of the ordinance was to include preservation of significant natural land features and to prevent overcrowding. Nothing will be disturbed or frustrated back there due to, again, the size of the land and the shape that we have back there. The proposed use is a reasonable one. The variance does not affect the overall essential character of the neighborhood, nor will the neighborhood be altered in any way. It's just our land that would be, the project would be affecting, thus making the request reasonable. And the last point, if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. The property has a septic and leach field set to the front left of the house, and the driveway and wetlands are in the back right. This combined with the house sitting closer to the PRD line, I only have 10 feet back there before I start to encroach into the buffer zone compared to some of the other surrounding structures having far more usable feet than us, are reasons that the denial of the variance would result in an unnecessary hardship for us. And I have nothing else in terms of application. I just want to say I did my best to try to keep all the business local in the town. We're using Daigle pools, and we're also using granite state fence for the fence to surround it once the project is done. Just waiting on this meeting to go ahead and order it. But yeah, I don't have nothing else for you guys, so feel free to ask us questions.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
I don't know if this is for you, so we don't do a lot of buffer zones.
No.
What's the idea of the buffer zone? Are we expecting a development? Is there, why do they have such a large buffer zone? Can you tell us, Nick?
That was decided by the planning board when they went for subdivision. And I think a lot of times they'll do that to make it more appealing to the planning board, so that they can gain their subdivision. And as he spoke, it was meant as a conservation, a tool for conservation to keep it natural.
So it's a conservation buffer zone as opposed to a development?
Well, it's not called a conservation.
Right, it's called development because you only
Right.
develop into it.
Right.
So the intent would be there's nothing that's going through there eventually, that this is, okay.
I'm sorry, did you say you had a 3.5 acre lot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if I'm looking at it correctly, it looks like as you look to your house, on the right-hand side, there's quite a bit of wetland, is that right?
Correct.
And then 102 there's no house between you and 102, right? On the right.
102 is what is Old Nashua or what? Oh, 102 the road. No, there's no house. It just goes. It's our house, the wetlands, and then the road.
Okay.
What is on the other side of the property on your left and behind your property?
You can also look, there's a, oh,
Are you talking about if you're facing the house from the street, like if you're looking at the front door?
Do you wanna-
Yeah,
yep.
so from the front door, if you look to the left, what is directly on your
All the
left?
other abutting properties you had up?
Is it another house?
Directly to my left is I have one neighbor, and then behind me, it just goes until the end of my property line. It's a little bit of a drop off, and then it goes to a, it's not a road, it's a driveway. The house that is behind me, the driveway is very long, and so it's actually a driveway to get to 102. It's my understanding that that family is well-known in the town, the Tates. They have a pretty long driveway, but it's not considered a road, I don't believe. But those are the only two things behind me.
And just to add to that, that driveway, you can't see the house from our backyard.
From the driveway.
Yeah, you can't see their house, or they couldn't see us.
And so which one was theirs?
This right here is theirs.
Okay, that's theirs, right, because it went up there. Okay. So they've got a neighbor on one side. Stash with us. Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
I see.
Yeah, I was trying to get my bearings as
Yeah.
well. Do you have anything else built around your home, like a patio, a deck?
At this current time, we have a deck on the back of the house, but our plan is to remove the deck and just replace it with pavers. But other than that, no, we have no other structures, no sheds, no detached anything, just the deck.
And when you're out in your backyard, you look out, can you see any other houses, or is it all woods there?
No, if you're in my backyard, like standing on my deck looking straight, it's just woods that you see if you look straight. In the wintertime, when, the trees are a little bit more on the dead side, I can see into his yard a little bit, but in the summertime, when the tall pines come in, there's no visibility. And then again, if you look to the right, it's just our driveway and then the wetlands. We can't even really see much of Burbank Road if you're standing back there.
And, you looked at other spots on your property and couldn't find another.
Correct. To the right, I would still be encroaching. So on one of these plot plans, you can see the PRD line. It's kind of at a diagonal angle. So on the left side of my house, I have 10 feet. On the right side, I have 20. So even if we wanted to move it over, we still would have been encroaching. But the issue we run into with that is we start to get close to or closer to the wetlands that we have over there, but then also to the driveway and the drop-off that we have there. And then on the front of the house, like in the front left, is our septic and leach field. And then there was one little small space in between my neighbor and the house, but quite frankly, it's just not big enough to put it there. We would have to probably have a substantially smaller
I'm not
pool.
even sure a smaller pool would fit, because you need patio and a fence around it. It wouldn't have enough space for.
And unless I'm mistaken, you've got some, the hill going up to your house is pretty significant,
It's a
right?
very steep hill
Yeah.
in the front of our house, yeah.
Okay, and that looks like it's all the way kind of from the right coming up to your house and from the front coming up to
The,
your house, right?
yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
Can I ask as well, when the planning board was designating this property as development, was there residential development buffer? Was there a specific reason for it? Do we know?
You know any answer for that?
For the plan.
Yeah,
It
do
would-
they have a specific reason?
Yeah, I think it was just to give a buffer to surrounding developments that were coming in.
Surrounding developments on the far side, on the other side of 102? Or-
No, just in, where the PR, let me show you. So it's here, so it would be for the property that's the 282010 right here. It
Right.
would be for those, because this is the buffer.
Right.
So it goes like this, so it'd be for protection for these folks.
Potential protection for the people who are on the north, I guess, side of the property, or the top
Yes.
side of this, based on the map.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
I had one other question. So you're going 60 feet in. How big is the pool?
The pool is 18 by 36, and some of that space also includes doing pavers around the pool, and then as well as having some pavers in between the house and the start of the pool. So I put 60 after I measured it. These measurements were done with Don Daigle himself. He was aware of us having to come for the variance, so he came out, and that's what we determined would be adequate enough.
What is the 60? Is that the edge of the pool on the far side, or is that the end of the?
No, the 60 would be the end of the 5 feet of buffer of paver around the far side of the pool.
Okay.
It usually would be the
Furthest point of construction. Right. Okay.
There's also a picture that we've, of the pool and the size.
Right.
In there as well.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm looking at it right. It looks like, so it's 18 by 36, but there's a little,
Tanning ledge.
it looks like an out, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. So I
Yeah.
think it's, if you made it a rectangle, it would be 26 by 36, is that right? That's what I'm looking at, I think. If
So
you-
it's 18 by 36, and then that, I believe it may be like, I don't know if it's.
I think it's 12.
The notch makes it 26. So
Right, so the tanning ledge is about 8 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's what it shows here.
and that notch is closer to the house.
Correct.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
I don't have any further.
Okay, any other questions? No. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience in favor?
Beth Morrison, I live at 15 Rosini Road. So in that area, and not a direct butter, but most people in there have a pool. And I think the PRD doesn't even exist anymore, like in terms of future development. So it was just there to, provide that natural buffer. But they have the biggest lot of the neighborhood, and there's nothing around them that, I don't think anyone would be affected by it.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Do you have anything you'd like to add before we go into deliberations?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take it into deliberations. Mitch, can I take the voting sheet from you?
do this with you each time. If we get better at this.
No, no, no. Thank you very much. I don't need it until now, so that's fine. So do you want to have any discussion, or do we want to go right into the points?
I guess I can go right into the points.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Point one, granting the variance would or would not be contrary to the public interest because.
I would say would not.
I would agree.
I don't think that pool changes the character of the neighborhood just based on how their house is. And I don't think it threatens anybody's health, safety, welfare, anything, from what I can see.
Based on the description, I'd say that even if they did develop that land behind their lot, there wouldn't be any impact.
No, I agree with you.
Brendan?
Yes.
If I could just interject. So the plan unit development, I just wanted to get the exact wording of it.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Back to 1986.
Oh,
was
wow.
the subdivision. So we have a planned residential development is an alternative to conventional development, sometimes referred to as cluster development, consisting of individual lots occupied by one family dwelling units, situated around a road or road systems, providing access exclusively to dwellings in the PRD, and common land held in combined ownership by all PRD unit owners. Such structures inside a PRD may be situated closer together than in conventional developments at an expense of a much stricter setback, access, and open space requirement, all as hereinafter set forth. So that's the intent of that.
Okay.
So just to clarify, they at one point had plans to develop that area into a residential.
No, so the plan unit development is like a cluster, so it allows you to have your houses a little bit closer together in return by giving more open space and undeveloped space.
Good
So the
question.
purpose of a planned residential development is to encourage the preservation of open space,
Got it.
encourage flexibility in residential development design, promote more efficient use of the land areas, and preserve the rural environment, open spaces of this community.
Okay,
So you
so
kinda-
their house and their neighbors' houses were
The P-
clustered closer together.
The
and
houses
then-
are closer in return for giving that back
Got it. Okay.
open space. And that PRD 150 is just around the outer rim of
Right.
the developments.
Okay, thank you. I don't think it changes my answer to one.
I agree.
Me neither. All in agreement?
Yes.
The spirit of the ordinance would or would not be observed because?
I would say would.
I would agree.
I would agree.
I think it's for the same reasons as one.
Yeah.
Granting the variance would or would not do substantial justice because?
I would say it would.
I would agree.
I don't think there's any loss to anyone. I don't think it's, the only thing that would be lost if the pool couldn't be put in is to the owners. There's no gain to the public.
Right.
I would agree. All in agree?
Yes.
Yes.
The following reasons, the values of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished.
I'd say would not.
I would agree.
I think the pool, I don't think the pool is gonna impact any of the other properties, and in fact, having an in-ground pool like that could increase the property values.
Could potentially, yeah.
Okay? Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because.
I would say there is no fair and substantial relationship. That is a huge lot. They're up on a hill. There's wetlands in it, and really, it's, I guess I'm a little confused by the PRD, given the size of that lot.
Right.
Huge lot.
It was a straight line drawn over multiple properties.
Right.
And it just cut this lot into a very small, like, buildable area.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's normally such a hard one, but for this property, it's just,
Yeah,
it's
no,
got a lot
I
of
agree.
uniqueness.
The proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because.
I'd say
It is reasonable,
Yep.
yeah.
Having a pool is reasonable.
Are there any comments or restrictions? Do we want to limit it again to the proposed footprint?
I think we should,
Yeah, not going beyond 60 feet.
right, not going beyond 60 feet into the PRD.
And I don't know if, again, if you wanted to comment about the size of the pool. So going back 60 feet, you could still
Right. it could be
expand it
good.
one way, not the other.
Could we mark the diagram as opposed to
You
just?
could, it's just technically not to scale, so I just don't want to put them in a position,
Okay,
I think if you, maybe reach back out to them and get the exact size of the pool. I know they want a patio too.
Right.
For that.
so we did,
And they do have it listed, I believe.
yeah,
I mean, if I could say that as long as the construction does not exceed 60 feet,
Well, the setback is just to go back in, so you can go back or you can go like this. So I don't know if the board's
Right.
concerned about, you're going back 60, but if it was
do
like
you have
this.
the total construction width?
With the patio?
Yes, with the patio and the fencing.
No, the patio hasn't been marked out yet, just because the pool has to go in first and has to settle around before, the patio is able to be constructed. But I will say, if we were to move the pool in any way, shape, or form, it would actually we'd be encroaching more if you twisted the pool, because we have it going the shorter direction, the longer way, if that makes any sense. If we were to move it or rotate it, we'd have to ask for more feet. So that was another thing we took into consideration when we
No,
put it that
I
way.
get that, but 60 feet, along the entire, if it's not specified.
so, yeah, I guess my question is, do you have any sense of like how much the buffer around the pool's going to be?
Do you mean like on the sides of it?
Yes,
on
on the
like
sides
this-
of it.
I don't think we do for the sides.
It's 5 feet around on all sides, other than the side coming from our house where we have the majority of the patio
But that won't,
to have like furniture and stuff on. But as you walk around the perimeter of the pool, it will be 5 feet of paver
Okay.
on all 3 sides, except for the alpha side of
So
the
it's-
pool.
So 10 feet, basically, in addition to the length of the pool, would be sufficient for the.
When I did that 60 feet, that was including the extra space for the paver.
okay.
Right. And again, the pool's length was 30,
It's 18 feet going straight back,
Okay.
is the length of the pool, by 36 wide.
36 wide.
So
So
Laura,
like
can we give,
46 would be-
could we give them a little leeway into, could we do 50 feet or do we? Because my concern is that if it's 5-foot
Right.
pavers around the side, if there's an extra 6 inches or a foot here, I just want to make sure that that's something that we can do on the width.
As long as whatever dimensions you put on, it does not exceed the 60 feet into the setback. you
That's,
can't.
that's right.
Right,
So-
this is talking about the width, not the,
Right.
not the depth.
So I think for, the way I would frame the conditions is not to encroach more than 60 feet into the setback and not to be more than 50 feet wide.
In width, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And let me just, does that work for what you're planning?
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. I don't know, I would have to go back there and measure it. I don't think it's gonna be wider than 50 feet if the pool's 36. I didn't plan on going past that 5 feet on that side, so I think that that's fine.
So you've got 2 feet of extra space on each side if we
Yeah.
give you 50, so that's, if you're okay with that, I think that's probably.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
that's
I
fine
think
for
that's
us.
good.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion, let's see, get there. Case number 03-16-2022-3, request for a variance to encroach 60 feet into the 150 planned residential development buffer setback for the construction of an in-ground pool, to approve the variance request with the restriction that it not go more than 60 feet into the buffer setback and not be more than 50 feet wide.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? None. In case number 3/16/2022-3, the request for a variance is granted with the conditions that the pool and the pavers do not extend more than 60 feet into the setback and that the pool and pavers are not more than 50 feet wide.
Enjoy your pool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
By the way, I found the regional impact determinations in that file.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah, sometimes I do those at the end. And I normally put it back in the main file.
You want me to hold on to it? or-
Yeah, why don't you hold on to that? I'll take that back. I'll take the file from you. Or I'll give these back to you. I'm sorry, I'm so used to taking them.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Okay,
We all set to move to the last one?
let me just grab it.
You let me know.
Yes. I'm ready. Okay. Case number 03-16-2022-4, appeal of an administrative decision by Norma Dietrich dated February 7th, 2022 regarding LZO 4.2.1.2A, the use of a travel trailer camper as an accessory dwelling, 3 Gardner Circle, map 6, lot 75-11, zoned AR1, Sean and Marie Buckland, owners and applicants.
Who'll be presenting?
My name is Sean Buckland,
And what's your address?
3 Gardner Circle.
You can go right ahead.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It is not my intent in this appeal to waste anybody's time. I fully acknowledge now that I am in error of the zoning restriction. Although at the time of setting this up, we did not know that. We have 2 friends that have moved up from Rhode Island to, one of them accepted a position as a PA at the convenient MD in town. And at the time of their move, they had a deal in place for a new property in Londonderry, but it fell through. So at that moment, we took them into our home, but collectively, we decided With Meg being a PA, constantly exposed to COVID, and I have a 2.5-year-old and an 8-month-old at home, we set up their RV as an accessory living space to, just in case anyone was exposed. And during that time, my entire family has gotten COVID, and she has been exposed 3 or 4 times. So we have been using it. So I fully acknowledge that we're wrong in doing so. It's from my standpoint, I wish we could extend them just a little bit more time, just because they are under contract now for a home. Their closing date is April 29th. So I am here just to see the process through and to buy as much time as I can for them. From my standpoint, Meg is providing a valuable service to our community and is very much a value add to our community, having them up here. And I mean, we're thrilled to have them up here. But I understand that we are in error, and I'm not requesting that we continue. I'm merely trying to get as much time as we can and before we comply with the decision.
Okay, do you have anything else to add, or is that basically?
No, that's it.
Okay. Let me ask you this, is someone living in the trailer at all times, basically?
They have been for the last 2.5 weeks, and they've been on and off over the last 2 months, really.
Okay. And when you say on and off, can you tell me what you mean by that?
So Meg works 3 days out of the week, and then when she's exposed, we've been trying to follow COVID protocol of 5 days, because my kids are unvaccinated. Obviously, it's not an option for them. Again, the point is moot now because they've been infected, but during those times, she would be in there for 3 days at a time while she was working. And then she would come back into the home. And so, I mean, frankly, it's for the last 3 months, really, they've been in there for half of the week every week, minimum.
So just to clarify, you have space in your house for this person to stay in the house.
We do. We have a guest bedroom.
And this was strictly used to prevent
My
exposure.
My house is small. There's only one bathroom for us all to share, and so yes, there was no way to adequately quarantine in the event that someone became ill. So from our standpoint, if we got sick, we didn't want them to lose out on time at work, and conversely, if she was exposed at work, we didn't want to have our kids get sick. Really, is what it came down to. So during those times, we would separate, and this was the best option we had for us. And again, this was a last minute kind of, let's fix this real quick. We have an issue. They're now all of a sudden going to be homeless. Let's try to make this work in a way that's safe for everybody. But again, at the time, we didn't know that our plan was an error of the zoning board decision. So that was our mistake.
Laura, I have a question. So what's your suggestion? I mean, I can't tell whether they're withdrawing or, like, what would be,
For him,
no, I mean, yeah, I mean, what's the suggestion?
so the suggestion is you have an appeal in front of you. So
Right.
your focus, and I appreciate his concerns and his situation, but the appeal is whether or not Nick improperly determined that what they're doing is in violation. He said that he
Yeah,
agrees with Nick,
okay.
so, I mean, that's the case. So what can the board do? The board really can't do
Just-
much
right.
except for rule on that decision. You can't say, well, you can stay.
That's what I assumed, okay.
Unfortunately, I mean, the board has, the limited jurisdiction. You have an appeal in front of you. It's either you're going to uphold
Yea or
Nick's
nay, yeah.
decision, or you're going to
Got
grant the appeal or deny. And I think everybody's in agreement that Nick's decision was proper.
Let me ask a question, Laura. How long typically is enforcement? How long does that take? How long is that process? Is there any discretion in that, or who makes that decision?
There is some discretion, and it depends on the type of violation. Sometimes they're given 30 days to comply. Other times, depending if there's danger with somebody occupying a structure, if the town's gonna incur liability, then we tell them, no, you have to cease immediately. So it's not always the same time frame.
Okay.
Okay. And you said that the people that are living with you are closing on April 29th?
That is correct.
Okay.
Could we encourage the
Don't know
a
what
45-day period of
That is not within the board's
No, I think
jurisdiction.
you have to leave it to code enforcement to figure out what's appropriate under the circumstances.
Yeah, again, your focus is really to grant the appeal or to deny it.
Can we go out to the audience on this one, or?
I don't know, on an appeal, do we go out to the audience, an administrative?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add before we go out to the audience?
No, sir.
Is there anyone in the audience who's in favor? Is there anyone in the audience who's, I apologize. Yes, absolutely. If you have a question as well, please come to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
Ann Champa, 28 Wedgewood Drive. I have a question for the staff. If they grant it, is that permanent for the property?
If they were granted approval of the
Yeah.
appeal?
Pardon?
If the appeal was granted, that would in fact say that Nick's determination of what he was doing was allowable, and it's clearly not. So then he would be able to keep that mobile home and use it as living space forever, not only him, but other folks as well, because it's a determination for zoning. So it does have some
That's the only
complications with
question
that.
I had for myself, just to understand it more clearly. Thank you very much.
Anyone else in the audience in favor? Anyone in the audience opposed? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. Any other questions for the board?
Nope.
My only question is, I'm looking at the zoning ordinance, and I don't know, Nick, if you know, it looks like accessory living space is only used in this one particular section. Is there a definition? How long does someone have to live somewhere if it's accessory living space? Or how often do they have to be in that space? Is that,
There's not a time on accessory living space. That's the description of the type of property.
okay,
And it's a completely different category of property than a mobile home. You're not allowed to live in a mobile home or a camper,
Okay.
camper type.
It's different, I asked the question, it's different from an accessory dwelling, which.
Right.
is a more defined term.
right.
in 518, but yeah. Be nice to have a definition.
It would be, because, I mean, so if, I mean, I guess my question boils down to, if you have someone stay in a camper one night, is that accessory living space? If you have someone living there for a full year, obviously it is, but kind of where do we draw the line?
Yeah, they're not allowed to.
At all.
So not even, so it's essentially like you can't stay there even for a night, it's just a,
No.
Interesting.
You know, it does happen.
yeah.
But, you know, when neighbors start complaining and tell us, we think someone's living there, then we go and tell them, no, you can't.
Okay.
And if you focus on the way the zoning ordinance is written, it says shall not be used as an accessory living space. So it's not talking about the length of time, it's just talking about how particular space can
It's
be
being
used.
used.
Right.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
Do you have anything you'd like to add before we go into deliberations?
No, sir.
So we'll go into deliberations now.
There's not much to look.
Our hands are tied, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, we have limited jurisdiction,
I agree.
there's nothing we can do. So I don't know if we have a voting sheet on this one.
I don't know.
You do.
We do.
We do.
We don't go through the 5 for a variance,
No,
right?
no, it's just, I think I may have filled out part of it as well. It's just what the determination by Nick was, and then what the board's finding was as far as what Nick decided. I don't know if I
If-
filled it in for you or not. So there's 3 parts to that.
There's 3
Right,
parts to
so
that.
So, yeah, first was the interpretation of the administrative body in question, was the campers being used as an accessory living space in violation of LZO 4.2.1.2.a. Then that was filled in. Second is the interpretation of the applicant seeking relief.
Okay.
I think at this stage, the applicant is agreeing.
Right. Laura, I just have a question. I don't know if I'm thinking of this wrong. If there's a denial of an administrative appeal, is there an opportunity then to apply for a variance or not?
There is, and there's also an opportunity for him to appeal the decision if he wanted to.
Okay. And during that time, would enforcement be told? Okay.
And he was made aware of those. The applicant was made aware of the appeal process as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yep.
To be honest, it was just for my own edification. I wasn't sure.
right, with the applicant disagreed with the termination of code enforcement.
Correct.
And then the findings by the board, so I guess, do we put findings in or we just make a motion?
I mean, I think the findings would be either you're agreeing with with Nick and Norma, or you're agreeing with the applicant, or somewhere in between. So if
In
the
this
finding
case,
of
we
the.
agree with both, but we agree with
Right,
code
but
enforcement.
that's-
We agree with
that's-
code enforcement, I think is fair.
I guess I'd make a motion. Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion in case number 0316-2022-4, appeal of an administrative decision by Norma Dietrich dated February 7, 2022 regarding LZO 4.2.1.2A, the use of a travel trailer camper as an accessory dwelling, 3 Gardner Circle, map 6, lot 75-11, zoned AR1, Sean and Marie Buckland, owner and applicants, that we agree with code enforcement and deny the appeal of an administrative decision.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. So in case number 316-2022-4, the appeal of administrative decision by Norma Dietrich dated February 7th, 2022 regarding LZO 4.2.1.2A, use of a travel trailer camper as an accessory dwelling, the appeal was denied.
Okay, thank you for your time.
I believe that's our last case of the night. Is there any other business that we need to conduct tonight?
And I know everybody already met, but I do want to welcome Chris Moore, our newest alternate member to the board. So welcome. Thank you. You'll be a great addition, and these folks are great to work with. So again, any questions that you have during your learning curve, feel free to ask them during the hearings. Contact staff at any time. And so welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
And the second thing I have is we still do not have a chair. So I'm just bringing that up again in case.
Very hard to figure that out tonight with the limited membership here.
Right, but that's just something, again, to consider.
Did you have, like, I didn't follow up on, I meant to look at it again. There was some sort of training or learning session?
And that's another thing, right, so what the acting town manager, Mike Malaguti, and I were talking, and Nick was discussing training for you folks, because we do have some relatively new members, and it's always good to have a refresher course. So I was hoping that we could have it in April, but now we have those cases continued. So I guess my question to the board is, do you want to have it before a meeting? Is that time going to be too difficult for people to get in here like an hour and a half earlier? And you will get pizza. Or would you like to have it on a completely different night at 7 o'clock?
I would prefer a different night.
I would too.
Yeah, I think earlier is going to be tough.
Okay. Is there any particular nights that are good or not good for any members? Again, I know we can't accommodate everybody's schedule, but if I can just get a census.
Sunday through Saturday is out. No. I guess think of a Sunday evening, is that?
With enough notice, I could do any day.
Tuesday, I don't get home back up here until 8 for more.
Okay, so
wouldn't
Tuesday,
work.
we can't, typically Wednesdays, at least this room is we could do a different Wednesday, just not, a Wednesday night.
That might be, that's the.
Like maybe like a
yeah,
fourth Wednesday of the month.
Maybe. I think that might be a good idea.
I'm gonna have to look at my calendar.
Right.
Okay, and what I'll do is, I'll take that fourth Wednesday and I'll pick some dates, and if people could just respond back whether those dates are good or not, then we'll just try to take what the majority can do and move forward from there.
Perfect.
Okay?
Any other business?
I don't have anything.
Hearing none, would anyone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.